Okay, sorry for the delay, folks. We're on. All right, just want to make a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone. I wanted to thank everyone who had done a wonderful job of getting that, getting the conference done. It was great. So I will just move through here. So this is the agenda for the meeting. I'll be reminding you of the as we go through it. And the first part that we will do is I welcome you all to the meeting. And I quickly will introduce the board members, executives, and some of the guests who are in attendance at this meeting. Just as a bit of background, this is the same format that we've done in all of our other AGMs, although things will show a little bit differently here as we go through this. Historically, these meetings have been done in various parts of the country. This is our first online one. The people who are here, mostly the directors first, from the various parts of the country. From the Atlantic region, Dave Goodwin, VE9CB. From Quebec, Guy Richard, VE2XDT. From Ontario Northeast, Alan Boyd, VE3AGB. Ontario South, Phil McBride, VA3QR. Midwest, BJ Madsen, VE5FX. Alberta, Northwest Territories and Nunavut, Ernest Klintberg, VE6EC. British Columbia, Keith Whitney, VE7KW. And our executive members here include our Vice President, Doug Mercer, VO1DM, Jason Tremblay, who you've seen at the opening of the meeting, our Community Service Officer, Corporate Secretary Al Mass, I should be giving call signs, Al's VE3CWP, our Treasurer, Margaret Tidman, VA3VXN, and Margaret joined the executive on the 1st of January of 2020. Our honorary legal counsel and person who has made this whole meeting happen, Marcel Mongeon, VE3DDD. Our Chief Information Technology Officer, Doug Schultz, VE1IOW. The Regulatory Affairs Officer, Richard Furch, VE3KI. Our International Affairs Officer, Serge Bertuso, VA3SB. And several deputy directors, a couple who can't be with us, our BC director, Alan Munich, and our Quebec deputy director are not able to attend this meeting, but I believe we have Stephen Lee, VA6 SGL, and Peter Toth, VE4 TTH, David Hyde, did I go back a slide? VE3YU and Frank Davis, VO1HP. And I'm also happy to acknowledge the presence of 3 leaders of amateur radio who I believe, I haven't checked, I know several of them told me they could be here. They're very busy people, but those of you who were at the opening session will know that they included Tim Ellum, from the IARU, Rick Roderick, president of the ARRL, and Steve Thomas, general manager of the Radio Society of Great Britain. Okay, this is what I've done. The next item on the agenda is at every one of our meetings, I think it's quite common in amateur radio activities, is to have a moment of silence for silent keys. I'm going to mention 3 leaders of RAC. They're all directors who recently became silent keys first, and then we'll have the moment of silence. Bill Unger, VE3XT, who was the director of Ontario North and East, where Alan Boyd is director now. And after his term as director, and maybe even beginning in his term, he took over running scholarships that RAC offers to students in colleges and universities who are radio amateurs, and had run that program for several years. He's sorely missed. He's the most recent person that's sort of in the, to have, or I guess, not most recent, I guess he was the first person since the last meeting who became a silent key. Uh, Doug Leach, VE3XK, and Al Penny will recognize this photo as well, who's the director of Ontario North and East, Vice President, and produced the first operator's guide for radio amateurs of Canada. And Jeff Smith, VA3GS, who is director of Ontario South. And now we'll have a moment of silence during which I'm going to flip quickly through the lists of silent keys. We publish silent keys in our magazine each month. It's up to our members and clubs to let us know and have them recognized there. So we'll begin the moment of silence now. Thank you. The next item on our agenda, and this is something slightly more difficult in a virtual meeting. This is a business meeting, the only really real decision-making meeting for all of RAC's members. And consequently, and this is not unusual in annual general meetings, when we meet at one time, one of the first items is to approve the minutes of the meeting from the past year. Some of you were there. Many of you were not, but these minutes have been published in our magazine in the November issue, so people have had a chance to read them in the past. They're on page 10 of that issue. And at this moment, I'd like to just ask for someone to move that the minutes of the last meeting be accepted. And I guess you do that by voting. No,
they can unmute themselves.
Okay, unmute yourself and
say your name.
Yeah.
P7WMS, Murray.
Okay, Murray.
And Guy. I second Guy.
Oh, okay, Guy, go ahead.
Dirk weer do XTD.
Okay, thank you. And Trish, we have a way for people to vote on that motion.
We do. I'm going to launch a poll. You can vote on your screen. We'll leave it open for just a short time. So please vote now.
Okay, thank you. May 17, 1943.
Just a couple more seconds. It is 94% approval.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item. Okay, a few people didn't vote. All right, thank you for that. I hear a little bit of background. Could people please mute themselves during this part right now? So the next item on the agenda is the report from the. Oops, why is that? Okay. Oh, I see why. Is the president's report, and I have a couple of pictures of me at the first meeting, the one on the left, first meeting, which was in Newfoundland, and last year's meeting in Moncton. This report will consider RAC's activities and challenges, primarily in 2019, but also in the first part of this current year. In ordinary times, I might have gone through this list chronologically, but these are certainly the most unordinary times that any of us have lived through. And I can't begin this report without starting where we are today. Our general meetings are usually held in a different location each year, hosted by one of our affiliated clubs and at an amateur radio event that would bring out a lot of hams. We've referred to them consequently as by the immediate location or perhaps major community where they were located. For example, the Heart's Content, Newfoundland, 2016, and you see the other ones, Ottawa in 2017, Red Deer in 2018, Moncton in 2019. This AGM will be, I hope, RAC's online AGM when we refer to it in the future. And we can get back to having in-person AGMs a year from now. However, we have to be prepared for it perhaps being RAC's first online AGM. We still know very little about COVID-19, It's been with us with such a short time that long-term effects of infection are unknown. Medical experts' understanding of how it's transmitted have evolved over the 6 months we've been dealing with it as more information is gathered. However, it's very clear that the outcomes of infection are much more serious for older people. We have many in our ranks. There are great hopes for vaccination, but even good vaccinations like those for the flu are about 50% effective. So we may continue being careful until the disease fully subsides. I'm sure these questions occupy those in our clubs as well as our national organization, and I believe a number of them came up in the first session at the conference. It was clear as we planned the AGM that there would be no in-person event that we have always used in the past to take advantage of. We created the conference consequently, but given the rapid changes happening, the conference was put together on very short notice. And I'm really very happy with the result that occurred, and want to thank all of those who worked tirelessly, particularly as we come close to the conference, to make it happen. While certainly worthwhile, online conferences cannot easily provide opportunities to meet old friends or check out bargains at flea markets. Furthermore, our traditional AGMs in a different province each year gave RAC leadership and members all across the country a chance to meet and talk, something we haven't quite worked out to do on a similar scale online. Our organization has had certainly challenges, some of which we noted in the first session, and much the same as people here at this meeting have had in their workplace or at home. Moving from working in a traditional workplace, as we do, sometimes involving groups of volunteers who would get together to make things happen, have not been possible. Some things have had to stop within RAC, such as the mail membership renewals that we traditionally provided every month. They are facilitated by volunteers to do the stuffing of the envelopes needed to get things out with a very small staff of only 2 people that RAC has. And we are now using email for those reminders. Like other businesses, we've had some losses. We had seemed to be down a little bit on membership. Perhaps some people are unable to afford memberships. Others have missed the regular written reminder. Uncertainty has been a key fixed feature of our experience since we first heard of the pandemic. We had a tentative agreement to hold this AGM in London that was actually set up 2 years ago as they anticipated activities to celebrate their 100th anniversary. And it was only during the pandemic time that it became clear the situation would not get better in September, or by September. By then, we were already deep into planning and supporting many other responses to the pandemic, some of which are listed here on this screen. We had a different kind of on-air event to celebrate World Amateur Radio Day focused on participation. We created a certificate, not for the best, but for everyone who had participated that they could download to celebrate their participation in it. We knew that clubs would not be able to organize courses, and we set up online courses for basic and advanced qualifications. We were lucky that we had within our ranks skilled, highly qualified instructors who could make that happen. When we opened the registrations, we were inundated with applications. We've completed 2 rounds of the advanced course and are taking registrations for the 3rd. It got off a little earlier than our basic. And we're now in the final stages of the 2nd round of basic courses and are planning, although we haven't officially announced it, a 3rd round, likely early in the new year. RAC had been invited to provide a presentation at the International Conference of the IEEE Antenna and Propagation Society in Montreal, scheduled for Montreal in July. Obviously, as it turned out, this had to proceed as an online conference. That presented challenges for us, but in some ways also piloted what we needed to know to be able to do the conference. Our contribution, a presentation on our WHISPER project through the Canadian Arctic, organized for Canada's 150th anniversary, was made by Barry Crampton, VE3BSB, who had led the project. We have a video of this presentation available on download from the RAC website. I might say that this organization, which I was not as familiar with beforehand, turns out to be a very, I think, quite important for us in the future. As I learned from working with people there, the two who invited Radio Amateurs of Canada and the ARRL to participate in the event were both academics, but both radio amateurs. A large proportion of the people from universities and businesses concerned about propagation and antennas are in fact radio amateurs. And the event, whenever it happens, is a chance to show the others what amateur radio can do. And they organize student papers and presentations, and I think that there will be opportunities for us in some ways similar to what we would have seen in the presentation on the high altitude balloons to find amateur radio being used for various research and investigative activities. Looking back to 2019, which is sort of the formal part of my report, there's certainly a much greater emphasis on many more international activities in 2019 than in any previous year that I know of. Major events take place on a cycle of 2, 3, or sometimes even 4 years. And typically they're scattered through the various years. But it turned out in 2019, several key events happened in the same year. As you'll hear from our treasurer when she reports on our audited financial statements for 2019, that led to higher than usual expenditures in 2019. And we've made some changes to our accounting to be able to allow a better comparison of our financial performance year to year in the future. One of the most significant events was the World Radio Communication Conference in October-November 2019 in Egypt. This was a culmination of a 4-year-long process of meetings within Canada for our representative and participation in international meetings. RAC is one of the few national amateur radio organizations able to send a representative to those international meetings. And we do so because of our Defensive Amateur Radio Fund, funded by donations from radio amateurs. Those of you who have followed the reports by Brian Rawling, VE3QN, on the whole process of leading to the World Radio Conference can appreciate his dedication and hard work. Amateur radio faces increasing pressures on our spectrum, and being involved domestically and internationally is key to defending our allocations. We're able to ensure Canadian, I'd like to thank the individuals and the clubs that have donated to our fund very much for making this possible. It's providing a service to all radio amateurs in Canada, whether they're our members or not. In late September, early October of 2019, the Triennial Assembly of Parties of Region 2 of the International Amateur Radio Union took place in Peru. These gatherings happen every 3 years and the participation are delegations from all of the national amateur radio organizations of the Americas. Canada is the second largest amateur radio organization in the Americas, and Canadians play a significant role in its operation. Among other activities, it produces recommendations for band plans for the Americas and provides an opportunity for national organizations to share information on how they deal with common issues. In June of 2019, the international meeting of amateur radio on the International Space Station took place at the headquarters of the Canadian Space Agency in Montreal. Canada was the host country. We had worked with the Canadian Space Agency, in fact, encouraging them to support it, and they made their facilities available for the meeting. It was interesting that that meeting took place immediately after the, or it started the day that David St. Jacques completed his mission on the International Space Station, where he flew for 204 days, the longest mission of a Canadian astronaut. David worked very hard and made contacts with many students and groups and schools around the world on the 204 days he was in orbit across Canada, taking advantage of his linguistic skills with many other countries as well. Our Canadian there was more activity in Canada with obviously during his time than any other year. And our Canadian ARIS team, particularly our mentors, Steve McFarlane, VE3TBD, and Brian Jackson, VE6JBG, who was also a presenter at the conference earlier today, were particularly busy through 2018 and 2019 preparing for and then organizing contacts. By the way, Brian organized the very first what's called a multi-point contact, something that ARIS had to do because of the requirements for physical distancing in the pandemic situation. Typically, students would gather in usually a school, sometimes in a museum, but that couldn't happen. And he and his students spoke from their various homes in May of this year. There's a great video, by the way, of that contact that's been made by NASA that can be downloaded from our website. Demonstrating amateur radio to young people and helping them get started are continuing themes within RAC. In 2019, we continued our participation in the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Expo that's held in conjunction with Canada-wide Science Fair, with volunteers from Fredericton staffing the booth at University of New Brunswick where that event took place. This was our third successful participation in the event that takes place in a different Canadian university each year. The event was unable to take place as an in-person event in 2020, again because of the pandemic, but RAC also participated in 2020 as part of the virtual presentation, and we showed amateur radio and what can be done with it through that. RAC continued to provide assistance to youth groups to facilitate them using amateur radio. And these contributions are again supported by donations from our members. Our basic budget doesn't have enough money for us to be able to do those kinds of things. We can keep the organization going. We can provide sort of guide volunteers, and we can use the program. So again, individual members and clubs are very important for providing the resources for the youth education program. As it's become more difficult because of changes within schools to have amateur radio set up within them, we've been supporting more outside of school activities with youth through donations to groups such as cadets. These can be done for any group, provided we're not the sole source of support and that it is doing something to build and advance amateur radio with people. Typically, it's used for equipment purchases. We also continue a scholarship program, which slightly different. This is scholarships for young hams in colleges and universities. We had a very generous donation in 2018, and we've been able to place some of that money with people. But the illness and death of Bill Unger caused significant slowdown in our scholarships program, and we're gearing it up now. We have the money. We need volunteers to help do the analysis and send the information to make the scholarships. The highlight of 2019 was a year-long, oops, I think I should have clicked my mouse a few times, sorry. the parks on, oops, I guess I can't go back, at the year-long Canada Parks on the Air event. RAC provided advice to a team of members in the Atlantic region who wanted to organize an event. And when they were able to make it happen, we gave it extensive reporting with articles by many participants included in our magazine throughout 2019. At last year's AGM, I described RAC's involvement in the formation of the Emergency Management NGO Consortium. That's non-government organizations. These are all the candidate, any organization that's a non-government organization involved in emergency management is able to attend. RAC was a founding member of this organization along with other well-known emergency management NGOs such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, and St. John's Ambulance. That organization continues to operate, and in 2019 organized an earthquake disaster relief exercise involving members of all of the organizations, including radio amateurs in the Ottawa area, focused on improving cooperation and communications between the various organizations that can be involved in disaster relief. Finally, as I've done at these meetings in the 4 previous that I've led as president, I'd like to make some comments generally on amateur radio. First and most important is that amateur radio continues to grow, and the number that I was able to get from our regulator near the end of August was there are now 72,484 authorized radio amateurs in Canada. That number has increased consistently. And in fact, it's amazing, I don't have the chart right here, but it's an amazingly straight line from the first data I have in October 2013 to August 2020, where the growth is 2% per year consistently. Canadian population is growing less than 1%. So we're growing faster than the population. For each of the full years from 2016 through 2019, the years that I can get information from, the number of new hams, those who are getting their first call sign, was 2.5% of the number of hams at the start of the year. We do lose a few people through silent keys, but in many cases, we don't. So that, if anything, shows that we're probably more than 2.5% of the number of active hams in the country. The one thing, and I mentioned this briefly at the opening, in the opening session, we had slightly fewer new hams in January to August of this year, likely because of some delays in getting examinations done but interestingly enough, and I think our courses may have helped with that, more advanced certifications than any of the other previous years. I just noted that while there are quite a few clubs organizing basic courses, there are not nearly as many who do advanced courses. Thank you very much for this. I'd be quite happy to take any questions on any matter. I've had a few written questions sent to me, which I'll deal with, but I'll take any questions after the meeting ends. So it'll be in a more informal session. At this stage, I'd like to invite the members of RAC to move that the President's report be accepted as presented. Do I have someone to move that motion?
VE3QN.
B7WMS second.
Okay. I hope as our secretary here, I hope he's got both of those things, those call signs written down. You'll remind me if we don't. So the motion has been moved and seconded, and I guess Trish, we can do it.
I don't have a poll for that, Glenn.
Oh, you don't have a poll for it?
Nope, sorry.
Okay. How about...
people can just put up their hands in their...
Okay, put the hand up on the bottom, and,
Yep.
and Trish will take a quick look at that. I see them all coming up.
Yep. Yeah, look, it's approved.
Okay. But maybe just to make sure, stop voting for it now. Anyone opposed? I don't think anyone's opposed. So the motion is approved. Thank you very much for that. I'll return to the next item in our agenda. So the next item on the agenda is a report from the treasurer. Again, as this is our formal business meeting, and a chance to report to the membership both on our activities or on our financial situation. And I'll call on our treasurer to take us through the key parts of our audited financial statement. And actually, Tris would like to give people a chance to ask questions to her after her presentation as well. So if you can make Margaret the presenter for this next part.
Yep, Margaret, you can share your screen now.
All right, is the statement of operations visible there?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay. All right, so I'm not sure if everybody knows me, but my name is Margaret Tidman, VA3VXN. I'm the treasurer of the Radio Amateurs of Canada. As Glenn had mentioned earlier, I took the role on in January. I was the treasurer about 10 years ago, but I've decided to come back again for another term. So what I have here is the statement of operations with a comparative to 2018. I'm sure that most people, the first thing they do is go right to the bottom to look at the income or loss for the year. As you'll see, our income has from 2018 to 2019 dropped by, let me see, what did I have here? About $27,000. Glenn did indicate previously the primary reasons for this were the planning meeting that we had in Moncton in September of last year, which was a large cost that was not previously planned for financially, even though the money was there. And the other item is the DARF expenses for the trips that Glenn had also discussed for the where do I have that here? The IARU Region 2 meeting?
No, that was the World Radio Conference. DARF.
I thought there was two.
And then, yeah, there's another one as well. I wonder where that is.
Yeah. So the other potentially one could be here under the executives and directors.
That's it. Yep.
Which would be the one that was in Montreal, I believe, correct?
That would probably be the, no, the DARF one is, DARF is a World Radio Conference. You're right, our annual meeting, because we had our whole executive and directors for several days in Moncton. And the other one is, yeah, the executive and one of those would have been the meeting in the IAR Region 2 meeting as well.
So
also lots of money.
Sorry?
Yes, that's probably, yes, those three. I'm not sure where exactly the IAR Region 2 meeting goes. It might have been with executive and directors.
I believe so, because I don't think there was another area that would be.
No.
So as mentioned, those are the big items that impacted our income last year. What we are going to start doing going forward is that we're going to start accounting for those meetings in advance, so that in the year that the meetings take place, the expense is not such a big hit, so that each year-to-year comparative is going to be a lot easier to compare, and you're not going to see such a huge fluctuation. So also part of that offsetting was the DARF income, which is up here at the top, which is not technically true income in the sense that it was money we received last year, but it's money that is accounted for from the funds that have been donated over time from clubs and individuals who have donated to the DARF fund. That's pretty much the big ticket items that impacted last year. I will open it for any questions. Also, before I go to questions, these will be presented in the November-December TCA, the full package from the auditors. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at treasurer@rac.ca with any questions after you go through those. I will be happy to answer those questions for you. But if anyone has any questions at this time, please go ahead right now. I can't actually see the chat window.
I don't hear any. Okay, Margaret, thank you very much for that. At this point, we need a motion to. Whoops, I guess I should. Can you switch back to me? I'll put to my screen.
I can stop sharing.
While you're switching back, Glenn, Phil McBride, VA 3QR, moves that the treasurer's report be accepted.
Okay.
Seconded by Victor Echo 9, Mike Tango Victor.
All right, and Trish, do you have a poll for this one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay, well, this motion is overwhelmingly joyed. I have to apologize. I was not quick enough. I'm one of the 3 abstentions. I think that may have been what happened for abstentions if you're not quick enough. Thank you very much for that. So we'll share the results, and we're back to my screen. So the next item.
I just mentioned sometimes on Zoom meetings, the hosts cannot vote in a poll.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe that's a good point. Okay. All right. The next item. So we've accepted the audited financial statements through approving the treasurer's report, and we will. Then the next item is the appointment of our auditors for 2020. So I'm looking for a motion. Oops, we've done that one. No, sorry. Can I go back? Can I go back? Yes, I can. So we're looking for a motion to appoint Baker Tilly Ottawa as auditors. That's my, sorry about that, as auditors for 2020. Could someone move that?
I do. Guy Richard, VA XTD.
Okay.
Seconded, Frank Davis.
Who? There are several seconds at once.
VO1HP.
Okay, VO1HP, got it. All right, and another poll. Do we do a quick poll for this one? Oh, you're right, I don't see a place to vote. Okay, well, this is certainly the motion has carried. Thank you very much for that. I will end. I'd like to adjourn since we've conducted all the business of the meeting. Adjourn the meeting. I see that Rick is here. I'm not who's the president of the ARRL. I didn't call for any messages from our friends from outside. Do you want to say anything right now? Are you still there?
Yep, I'm here. Let me unmute myself. You hear me okay, Glenn?
Yes, I can indeed.
All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot. And this has been great. Great day. There's super presentations, and I thoroughly enjoyed everything. Great job, RAC. Way to go. But greetings from the American Radio Relay League, and on behalf of the board of directors and headquarters staff and members, we really do appreciate the opportunity to be here and visit with everyone. And Glenn attends our board meetings, as y'all know, and he and I work together on a great number of things. He does a super job representing amateur radio on behalf of Canada, and we really do appreciate his insight into things. He's a very important colleague of mine that I trust an awful lot, so he does a good job for y'all, and we appreciate him helping us out along the way. So anyway, great job, everyone. Thanks a lot, Glenn, and all the officials and attendees here for the warm welcome. We appreciate it. And again, great job on the entire day and the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Steve said he was going to be here. Are you still with us, Steve?
Yes, I am, Glenn. Yep,
Okay.
still here. And thank you for the opportunity to join you again. I normally join quietly, don't I, to the AGM, but it's lovely to join you. Thanks very much for the invitation, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Great presentations, and I have to say that I've missed seeing you, well, seeing all of you actually face to face in Hamvention as we normally meet up. But it's been great doing it this way. So best wishes absolutely from everybody at the RSGB, the board, the staff, all of the volunteers, and all of the members as well. Great to see you. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Now, and Tim had emailed me. He might try to, he was very busy, but he might have tried to hop in at the beginning of the meeting. I'm not sure he's still with us. Are you with us, Tim? No, I guess not. He's got a serious court case. He's a lawyer with a serious court case going on right now, so he's very busy. Well, with that, thank you. We've had the adjournment of the formal meeting, and we're now into the question and answer session. So if anyone has questions that they would like to ask me, this is the chance to do it.
Just a great presentation. Thank you.
I have one question.
Okay, sure.
It's Mike V3IPC. Will these sessions, well, the AGM and the sessions, since it's all video, will that be posted on RAC at some point so we can review them? I wouldn't mind looking at some of the sessions that I wasn't watching because I couldn't watch them all.
Yeah, well, we actually ran them on YouTube, RAC's YouTube channel, and we're going to take a quick look at them, and we will have them available there rather than on the website through the YouTube channel. And we'll plan to put a notice in the magazine for when they're available, probably within the next couple of days.
Well, that'd be great.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Glenn, I have a question.
Sure.
That's Brad Harris, VE3MXJ. I'm in Thunder Bay. First off, great job to everyone. I know it's a lot of hard work, and especially for a lot of people behind the scenes. I'm the local EC emergency coordinator for ARES here in Thunder Bay. And I'm just wondering if you could give me a little bit of information or a little more insight. I see reading in the latest TCA about a new field service training coordinator, VE3PGY. And I'm just wondering what you know about that and what, if anything, I don't know if she's on here today or not, or.
Well, I actually maybe Jason, I can't see who all the people are here. Are you online right now, Jason?
I am.
Can you deal with this?
Yes, I can. So briefly, I'll give you a summary. Over the next 6 months, we will be expanding the national team to assist and build stronger relationships with the sections. So we do now have a national training coordinator. There'll be more information in the next TCA in my report, and we'll also have more information coming out over the webpage in the next little while. So I don't want to put too much out today. There's a lot going on, and if you need any other information from Thunder Bay, you can contact Al Boyd. He's very much up to date with what's going on. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, Jason, thank you very much. And hopefully, you know, now that we have this new venue, whether it's going to be permanent or not, but using Zoom and these kind of different software for training purposes, even if we so-called get back to normal, it's another tool that we could use for some different kinds of ARES training. But that's just a thought. So thank you very much. Back to you, Glenn.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
I have a question, Glenn, please.
Sure.
John Bradbury, VE7XFA. I'm with the Comox Valley Amateur Radio Club. And you may have gotten my question before, either by email or some other method, but it was just wondering if you'd managed to review the insurance, the RAC insurance, since the IBC has been offering reducing insurance costs as due to COVID. We're just wondering if that's going to get passed down in some form, either with mitigation or changes to the next year's premiums or rebates or anything like that.
Yeah, on insurance, what I know of, and that's partly just from my personal experience, car insurance is certainly, people have been offering reductions in car insurance. for the kind of insurance that most clubs, well, the insurance that we offer for clubs is liability insurance. And as you know, we've never had a claim in liability insurance. Consequently, we have rates that are probably a third of what the commercial rates are. And it's really a ticket for the club to be able to operate. You know, if you have a repeater on someone else's tower, if you want to have a meeting even in a municipal building, those people want the people who are coming to be insured. That's what we offer. Actually, as it turns out, there aren't going to be any reductions in insurance, and we're still working through the amount now, but in fact, there will be increases for the club insurance. What happened last year, and this is partly, it's got nothing to do with us and the risks we present. You probably know from the news that over the last couple of years that there have been significant losses in the insurance industry from fires, from floods, from plane crashes. And last year, the insurance company rates increased rates across the board on a lot of things. We actually got caught out in RAC because we had sent notices to all of our clubs, because we gather the information and then send it to our broker for all the clubs. We decided to leave what we had sent invoices for to the clubs, and consequently RAC lost about over 9% or so of the total amount of insurance. The plan for insurance with RAC is that it is a service that we offer to our clubs. Our hope is to manage it so that we make no money and we lose no money. So we will have to recoup that. And we've also been warned that the insurance companies, for the same general reasons, are planning an increase again for this year. So right now we're trying to think of what we can do to handle that and to make sure that make sure that this program doesn't limit other activities that RAC might be able to do, that it lives up to the way it has been set up. And that is as a service that is generated that doesn't require support from our general membership funds, and it doesn't provide us any resources. So that's where we are on insurance now. What I've told you now, we haven't put out in writing yet, and partly because we're still working through exactly what rates we have to quote for this year to make sure that that things work properly.
Okay, thanks for looking into that for us.
Okay, any other questions? I had a couple of written questions here. Some of them are really long, so but I'll tell you what they are. These came from Steve, VA3 SXP, president of the Centaur Amateur Radio Club. That's Central Toronto. Is he here today? We don't have him here. Okay. Well,
no, I am here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. You
off the mute button.
No, that's right. That's fine. I do that all the time. Okay, so these are the three questions. I'll skim them. One of them is related to what we've been talking about a lot today, COVID-19, attracting new members to the hobby, and how do we get connected to them? And particularly in this time, I'm paraphrasing Steve, but what the real question after that background is there a way we can communicate to new amateurs about our clubs and keep them engaged, and coordinate with RAC as clubs work on new programs, and certainly that's something that I'd like to do. We've been talking about it, you know, in particular because we're organizing courses that have people from all across the country. We have within our website a list of affiliated clubs, and we have offered the ability for clubs to post their activities. And one of the things that we are thinking of is making sure that or inviting the clubs to send us information on what they're doing so we can post it there, and so that people who are giving courses can tell those who are new hams where they can look for a local club. So that's one of the things, and we're thinking of other ways of increasing our activities, some of which we talked a bit about in that very first session this morning. So second question, the question is about, it's about operating remotely. it's interesting because I've had discussions with Richard Furch, who's our regulatory affairs officer on this one. Right now, our regulations say only those with the highest level of certification can operate a remote station. And I'm quite sure, although I haven't asked them about it, that that requirement dates from the time when it was as complicated to set up a remote operation as it was to set up a repeater, because it parallels the requirement for advanced people only setting up repeaters. And these days with the internet and equipment, it's much simpler to operate remotely. And we've had, I think of an Alberta club that told us that they had a station outside of town and they wanted to give their members a chance to operate it remotely, but they realized that either they had to have advanced certification or have someone with advanced on site for them to do it. So in short, we're sympathetic with it. The challenge we have as an organization is getting bandwidth with our regulator is difficult. They have many things they're working on. We have a system of priorities for the most important things we want them to do. And in the pandemic, they're even working slower. So it's on the list of things that we'd like to do, but I don't think we're going to be able to get at it too quickly. It's something that I would like to do very much, but we've got things, some allocations that have not yet been authorized, for example, that we need to get through. And updating our main regulatory document that hasn't been looked at in several years is really our highest priority. Okay, the third question on jamming. This is another question that's occupied us quite a bit. We talked about it a lot a year ago at our Moncton planning meeting. It's something that we could probably have an hour-long session to talk about, because it's not simply a matter of our regulator going out and grabbing someone who's jamming. And I know even in the ARRL, where there are problems of people jamming that in their system, which it seems to be a little quicker to levy fines, still persist. There are a range of things that people can do when they have that situation. And we were thinking of putting together some guidance for clubs, because you need to understand both the issue and also how a regulator operates and what their constraints on, to understand which cases they're going to pick up and deal with. So we understand the importance of that. If anything, the impression that we had recently was that the situation was better than it was before. So frankly, that dropped this one issue a little bit lower on our list of things to do. So that's sort of a kind of a quick answer, Steve, and I'd be quite happy to talk to you personally after the meeting on any of these things.
No problem. Thanks, Glenn. That's quite informative. I appreciate the points of view on that, and good to hear, actually. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Victor Echo 3 India Papa Charlie. Regarding the liability insurance of RAC and Aries activities, not everybody in an Aries group is necessarily a RAC member, not necessarily a club member. I had heard that it was possible for a club to write a letter to the local Aries group once a year, and in writing extending the coverage as an umbrella over the Aries activities, so that at least from a liability point of view, they're covered, even though the Aries group is not per se inserted in the club. Any comments?
Well, the way insurance works is that the insurance covers the clubs for any liabilities, and that includes frankly, it's a bit theoretical question because we've never had a claim, but so that includes all of the people who are participating in the club's activities. We've talked this over. For example, if you set up an activity in a park and somebody falls and gets hurt, or something that was put up by members of the club and their friends, all of the people who are involved in the activity are covered, because mainly what the insurer does is they handle all of the court cases. You know, one other thing about insurance, that especially when people are concerned about costs and expecting costs to go down, there was an incident in Toronto within the last year or so, where a major fire in a condominium in downtown Toronto, and lawyers who are not all as perhaps ethical as those of us who are here at these meetings, would go to everyone and sundry to see if they might be able to get some of the costs from them. So they noticed that there was a repeater. The repeater was on the roof of the building. The fire was in the basement of the building. They still wanted to go to the people who are responsible for that. And what happens when you're insured is the insurance company takes care of dealing with that lawyer. So they don't, if it goes to court, they take care of going to court. So they would do that for, so it's not so much individual insurance as insurance around the events and activities that the club or the organization has, you know, like repeaters or meetings or things.
Well, you haven't touched the ARES part. ARES sometimes will be on a deployed exercise, or they'll have a field exercise, impromptu stations or what have you as part of their exercise. Is a how does a RAC liability?
Okay. The first thing, you know, there are things that, again, our insurance is for typical amateur radio activities. And things that definitely would not be covered would be things that are higher risk. You know, one thing they
can I suggest you not get into giving legal advice?
Okay, I'll talk to you after this. But in short, it doesn't cover individuals. It covers organizations that are insured. And at the ARES Club, if the club calls it an activity, it's insured. If it doesn't, it's not. Unless if a club is doing those things. Okay.
Yep, I think that helps. Thanks.
Anything else? A wide range of questions. Sorry if I go into too many details here. Okay, that's fine. I'd like to thank you all. It's now 5 o'clock. Actually, this is quite good, getting a full AGM and questions and answers done in an hour. So I'd like to really thank all of you who have spent the time. We have 130 people. I should, sort of in closing, I'll mention, because we go to different places across the country, sometimes our AGMs are fairly small. The largest one before this was 100 people at Red Deer. So we've had lots of people participating in this, and I really want to thank you for your time. And we'll be seeing more about what we're doing on our magazine and website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for a great meeting and all the presentations.
Michael V. Thank you. I thought this was an excellent day.
And for all those organizers, we'll do a post-mortem when we've recovered.
Thank you, everybody.
Already planned.
Thanks very much.
Cherry term.
Thanks very much to Radio Amateurs of Canada for putting this up. It's been immense. It's the first time I've seen anything this good, this elaborate. It's well organized. I think it went out pretty much without a hitch. So great, just great.
Thank you. And as you leave the meeting, you can do that with the red button in the bottom right corner, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, and we're going to close up the meeting now.
You're going to pull the plug.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye all.
Bye all.
Where do we meet for a brew afterwards?
Yeah. We'll think of you when we have one at home.
Thank you, Marcel and Trish.
Our pleasure. You're welcome, Mel. Bye all.